Saludos, everyone. My name is Jose Soto, and I work as a digital media manager at HRC. I am thrilled to be here with all of you for this very special conversation titled TodaLaFamilia. We're continuing our Latinx Heritage Month celebration by talking to two Latinx families who understand the complexities of being Latinx and having LGBTQ plus family members, particularly transgender family members. I'm thrilled to be joined by both the Garcia family and the Vigil family. The Garcia family are joining us from California, and Laura, who is Elio's mother, volunteers with Trans Family Support Services, which provides guidance, support, advocacy, coaching, and services for transgender and gender nonconforming youth and their families. We're also going to be joined by Adeline and Adamalis Vigil from Texas. Adeline's story was recently featured in one of our most inspiring and impactful videos, which we'll be showing later during our conversation. The video is part of HRC's Latinx and Proud campaign, which is created to celebrate and observe Latinx Heritage Month. Adamalis is part of our Parents for Transgender Equality Council and has been a strong HRC supporter for quite some time. Let's bring on Adamalis and Adeline. Hey,
Hello,
folks.
Hi.
Hi, how are you doing?
we're doing well.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you
It's
for
good to see
having
both
us.
of you.
It's good to see you too.
Thank you guys for joining us for this meaningful conversation and observance of LGBTQ Latinx conversations in history. Ademalis, tell us more about how identifying as Latinx impacts your relationship with Adeline. What is your experience like in your household? From my understanding, it's mostly Latinx comprised, right? Your household?
Yes, yes. My both my parents and my in-laws were born and raised in Mexico. We are first generation Americans. I think the way it helped me support Adeline, the way it helped me um, understand her more was because since our family is very close knit, I think experiencing this with her and having all the support from our family since we're sorry about that.
It's all
Sorry
right.
about our since we're so close and we have all most of our family very near us, practically some living in the same neighborhood. That helped have very strong connection with her and kind of helped us support each other and understand her more. And it made it easy. I want to say we had the better piece of the pie, you could say, um, because all of our family was very supportive. And since we're so close and united, that means a lot and that helped in tremendous ways. So um, I think we were one of the lucky ones to have such supportive Latinx family, which made it very easy for us to kind of let her grow and be herself.
Yeah, that's great. I myself come from a Latinx household, and the bond and the great connection and chemistry that we have as a family definitely helped when it came to me coming out and then continuing on as a family by them being supportive of me and acknowledging myself as an individual. So I understand where you're coming from. It's a very genuine and very unique experience to have such a great um, relationship with the family members in your household. I'm curious, Adeline, what about for yourself? Like, what has that been like for you since you're living authentically? How has having a Latinx upbringing and supportive household mean for you?
Uh like how could I say this? Like what does it mean?
How
Yeah.
has that helped you?
Oh, it helps me a lot because we're all so close. So even before I transitioned, like I've always felt the love, and I think that's part of our culture. So after I transitioned, like it was the same.
What about your community, particularly at school? How has that the area that you live in? I think it's the Rio Grande Valley. It's mostly predominantly Mexican and Mexican American. So how has it been growing up in a predominantly Latinx community? Particularly at school, have you encountered significant bullying, or has your experience been a little bit more positive since folks bring on their family values to a school setting? They, like I mentioned, there's predominantly Mexican, so I'm assuming that a lot of folks um, bring on their family values to the school environment. So I'm just curious, what has that experience been like for you?
I think it's been like bad because like their beliefs and like they go home and their parents tell them to believe these stuff that they say like about me. So they go back to school and then they bully me and they tell me all these stuff, but just because they heard it from their parents. And I think that has a lot to do with like machismo and because of our religion.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. Machismo is it's continues to be a prevalent issue within the Latinx community, a lot of communities, right? But it's very noticeable within our community. I think it creates barriers of of true connection with the people around us, just because we are insisting of things that are so dated, and sometimes that impacts the relationships that we could be having, positive relationships that we could be having with people, whether it be at work or at school. We just kind of like on that mentality. So addressing that, and you also touched a little bit upon religion. We'll be talking a little bit more about religion's impact on Latinx families and communities. Um, but so you were willing to participate in one of HRC's videos. It's received great feedback and great reception from our audiences. I want to personally thank you on behalf of HRC for being so giving and willing to share your story. Why don't we go ahead and play the video now? Like I said, it's beautiful. It was released earlier this month at the start of Latinx Heritage Month. It's titled Trans Kids Need Our Support. 12-year-old Adeline shares why. So let's go ahead and watch the video now.
Antes misconceptions que nosotros somos malos, que somos abominations, o like estamos locos de la cabeza o no sé qué dicen. Pero edúquense porque ponen a sus niños en riesgo.
Mi hija Adeline es chistosa, es ocurrente, es tu típica niña de 12 años. Lo que más admiro de Adeline es su forma de vivir la vida sin miedo. Es muy fuerte.
Ese era mi primer Pride, cuando todavía no conocíamos a nadie. I was so excited everywhere.
Cuando Adeline tenía 7 años, me dijo, yo cuando me duermo todas las noches le rezo a Diosito que cuando me muera me haga una niña.
Yo adoro a mis nietos, los adoro y no me gusta que nadie me les haga nada. A mí me encanta mi México. Soy criada en un rancho y pues estoy tratando de que mis nietos también lleven la misma cultura de nosotros. Hemos sufrido mucho ver cómo la han tratado en la escuela, cómo la rechazan y sí nos puede mucho.
No me dejan usar el baño de las niñas y es muy injusto.
Cuando hablan de una persona transgénero, no sé qué es lo que les pasa por la mente, pero cuando llegan a conocer a Adeline y se quedan como, oh, wow, es una niña. Pues sí, es una niña de 12 años. ¿Cómo me vas a mandar a mi niña de 12 años a un baño de un hombre?
constantemente voy a tener que estar luchando contra mis legisladores porque no me dan los mismos derechos como otras personas. Yo tengo asma severo, que si un día yo tengo un ataque y no tengo medicamento y voy al hospital y me rechazan solo porque soy quien soy y me muero. Yo soy una niña normal, que yo nada más quiero vivir mi vida como cualquier otra. It just sucks that I have to explain to people that I'm just normal.
Este tipo de proyectos de leyes les están señalando. Esto les está haciendo aún más vulnerables. Mi mayor miedo es que llegue a enfrentar crímenes de odio. Cada vez que veo las noticias, pienso, esa pudo haber sido mi hija.
No, así no. Así.
Pues así le hice.
No, le hiciste así.
Nuestros hijos son como cualquier otro hijo, necesitan nuestra protección, necesitan nuestra educación.
Ser una niña transgénero para mí es ser como cualquier otra, que yo no soy diferente a tu hija o a otras niñas que has visto. Yo soy regular, yo soy normal.
De la Sierra Morena, cielito lindo, vienen bajando un par de ojitos negros, cielito lindo, de contrabando. Ay, 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 canta y no llores, porque cantando se alegran, cielito lindo, los corazones.
You know, I can't underscore just how amazing that video is and how impactful your story is, Adeline. Again, thank you for sharing your story. I think that your vulnerability is really where the power of this video lies, both yours and your mom's. I think also some of the reason why it's so insightful and impactful is because it's so relatable. Even though you're young, and your experiences, that you're having, they're coming like from a space of an understanding of someone so young. Um, it's so relatable though, because Latinx LGBTQ folks share similar stories and experience regardless of age. You know, I see you engaging with your mom and your abuela in the kitchen, and that really drives home the point that you make, that like, hey, I'm normal. I'm just like any other girl. I'm just like any other teenager, any other youth. And that's a very powerful message to drive home. What do you feel when you watch this video? Like, and now that it's been out for a while, has it empowered you in some way, or what is your experience like now that your story's out?
It's cool because I don't know what to say.
How does
You
it
can
make
just say
you
whatever comes to
It
mind, and
makes
if
me
it
feel
doesn't,
like cool, like that people now know. And maybe it's also cool that like maybe I changed somebody's opinion. That makes me feel good inside, like that I might have changed somebody else's opinion and they might have thought negatively, but after watching my video, they could really relate to what's going on to me. So, yeah.
yeah, I agree. I think that's really cool. I think you sharing your story so authentically and so openly is really cool. And the power of that is that you'll be changing minds. I'm sure that already has happened as we continue pushing the video forward, during and past Latinx Heritage Month. I'm sure a lot of hearts and minds will be changed too. What about you, Adeline? I'm sorry. What about you, Adamalis? What do you feel? What comes to mind when you watch that?
When I watch this video, I tear up every time I watch it. I feel that parents can see how me as a parent, as an LGBTQ parent, I am as fearful as they are. as that I also need the support, that I also need the power to protect my child, and all I want is for my child to have a happy and healthy life. So I hope that they take that in mind, and I also hope that I change at least one person's point of view, and I really hope that there's a lot of things that that involve Adeline's story that I know that they could change at least one mind. So knowing that we have this video to kind of share, and kind of help them understand us better, it helps me, and it gives me peace of mind, that maybe we can change it little by little.
Yeah, I think you touched upon something that's very important. You had mentioned that as a parent of an LGBTQ plus youth, you need support, and really, that's what we also are trying to do by sharing Adeline's story, is addressing that while family is powerful, we can get a lot of things done through family. We're also a community, and so we need each other to get things done, to advocate for one another, and truly create experiences um, that are positive for the community, but for everyone, right? Not just for specific individuals. And I think
Well,
that's yeah. Go ahead.
going into this, going into the advocacy world, and trying to speak up for my daughter, I realized how at least in my community, in our community, we lack a lot of representation in the Latinx, aspect. There's not a lot of Spanish information. There's not a lot of advocates for Hispanic side, and I think we really need to be that voice, and bring awareness that, hey, there's a lot of people in our Latinx community that need to speak up, and it's not okay to just take discrimination and just go with it. And especially for our youth, so I realized going into this, I realized how little representation we have, and how we need to bring awareness to that too. So having this video is very powerful for me. So thank you for
Agreed.
that.
Of course. I want to welcome the Garcia family to join our conversation. They're coming in from California. Laura, hey guys, how are you doing?
Hola, bienvenidos, buenas tardes.
Hola.
Hello.
Laura is joining us with her son Elio, who identifies as transgender as well. Laura does volunteer work with Transgender Family Support Services. I had mentioned this earlier, but it's an organization that provides guidance, support, advocacy, coaching, and services for transgender and gender nonconforming youth and their families. Bienvenidos to both of you. So good for you to be joining us. So, what did you guys think about Adeline's video and story? What thoughts do you guys have? I'll start with you, Lara.
Every time I see that video, I start crying. And probably I will start crying again. I think that what Adamali said, it just gets in your heart. The protection of our children. We all parents, I don't care if you blue, green, purple, we all want the same. We want our children to be safe. We want our children to be happy. So the fact that we have to fight for children to be respected with the same rights and the same rights and the same respect to everybody else, it hits really, really deep, especially in our community. We know, I don't care if you're, Mexican like me, if you cannot tell from my accent, soy de Mexico, Céntrame de El Bajío. And my son is first generation. So we have heard it all. We know what people say about us. We're criminals, we're lazy, we're this, we're that. So why we as a community are doing that to ourselves? It hits really, really deep, because if anybody knows what it is to be treated with less respect that the rest of the people, is us. And for us, family is everything. So every time I see that video, it makes me cry.
Yeah, you bring a good point up of these compounding issues of being Mexican, being Latinx or from a Latinx family and community, already that presents challenges and hardships. And then we still have to not only defend that aspect of our lives, but also the aspects of our loved ones, where it's like they are not only confronting these challenges themselves, but they're also having to confront the challenges of identifying as LGBTQ plus, right?
Mhm.
So it's kind of like two battles at the same time. Elio, I want to hear from you. What were your thoughts when you were seeing the video? Am I wrong to assume that the Adeline's story resonates with you?
Oh, absolutely. It definitely resonates. And I think that this point of representation is really what makes this video so powerful. You know, when I was coming out and exploring my gender identity, I thought for a long time that there was no way I could be transgender because I didn't see anyone like me. You know, I didn't see anyone that was Mexican and transgender. And so I thought, oh, well, there must be no one then. So I can't be. And so the fact that this video is showing that transgender people are everyone, I think is so important. And not only that, you know, there's this big stigma that the transgender community are, you know, are deviants, and the whole topic about transgender people is like this taboo topic. But in reality, it's not. And videos like this show that no, transgender people are people. And furthermore, they're kids.
And their families, and we're familia. And I'm siding with this is reason why my family, my son and myself, we decided to started supporting the organization that supported us, that guided us. Trans Family Support Services was pivotal for my family and for my son. With the support groups for children, we have support groups for teenagers, for younger adults, for little ones, or client goes from 3 years old to 63 years old. And it was important for my family to help other families. It was also important for Trans Family Support Services for them to know that there's comunidad. It just really, when Adamali said that to know that we're not alone, let me tell you, we're not alone. There's a whole support behind us, by us, and the side. We have made connections with families in Mexico, Centro America, Latin America, Sudamerica, España, Argentina. We're everywhere. And I really want to take that opportunity to thank HRC, because we are making presence by helping other people seeing us. Like my son always says, they take a lot of effort trying to make us invisible. We're not. We're here. We matter.
Most definitely, most definitely. And I love that you touch upon the issue of visibility, especially for LGBTQ plus children, because I think that sometimes as a community, as a Latinx community, we think of these issues sort of like grown up issues. Like there's no way that this can exist amongst our children, and we definitely need to do a lot more work in bringing visibility to what they're experiencing as Latinx children who identify as LGBTQ plus, and provide them with authenticity, right? Not just kind of brush it off as a phase or something that they're just confused with. I think sometimes as Latinos and Latinx folks, we miss it. So I do thank you for touching upon that point, because it's very important. Elio, you as you're in college, so you're a bit older than Adeline. Do you think that the story is still impactful even for folks of your age, people who identify as LGBTQ plus and Latinx, but are a bit older than Adeline? Do you think that those issues stay prevalent even though you're a bit older than Adeline? What is that experience like, being a college age, but seeing that someone as young as Adeline is experiencing the issues that you might be still experiencing, or but definitely experienced in the past?
Absolutely. I think that this issue is one that keeps going for, you know, the rest of our lives, kind of a fight that we continuously need to be fighting. I think the main difference is that, you know, when you're in middle school, high school, you're counting on the adults in your lives to make the correct decisions. You know, you're counting on your parents, your teachers to vote the way that affirms you. But once you get into college and you're around voting age, you now get to do that advocacy yourself. And so I think that it is something that is very important to keep thinking about once you grow up and start going to college or enter the workforce, because, you know, college isn't for everyone, and that's totally okay. But once you get older, you are able to now be part of the movement. You know, I was able to vote in the 2020 election, one of the most important elections of US history for as long as I've been alive, at least, and been able to vote. Um, so I think these issues definitely carry on as you're older, except now you can be a part of it.
I'm curious to know, Laura and Adamalis, what you guys feel when you hear and see your children being true advocates for LGBTQ plus equality. What is that experience like as Mexican Latinx mothers?
Um, it's just, I cannot even express it. I think that we all have, it doesn't really matter, in my opinion, if you're, from a small town in Mexico, a small town in South Texas. We have a lot of things that we share in our blood, familia en la sangre, espíritu, corazón, comunidad. There's so many things that they mean the same for everyone. And I'm very proud of my son, not only because he had that courage to be himself, but not only that, but he's also have the courage and the patience to teach me. There's so many things that I still do not know. There's so many things that I still do not understand. However, we have decided as a family that we're here to respect each other, and more important, to affirm each other. Because my grandmother, my mother said, I don't understand, when we had the family meeting and my son came out to the whole family. She said, I don't understand, but I will love you forever, and you're my son. However, it wasn't until a year later that she started using, the right pronouns, and now it is fluid como nada,
Hmm.
easy. Prieto, mi amor, mi hijo. It was like, Elio was always part of the family, even when he was little. And I think that that is very important, because we know as a family and as a community that we love each other. We always love each other. But there's a lot of decisions that we take in our families, and we need to understand, are they coming from a place to fear, or are they coming from a place to love? And a lot of the time they intersects, especially for me. I'm from a generation, from a small town, with religion and everything. It was everything in my town. Anything that any big festival, any big fiesta, it was because it has to do something with religion. So that was another thing that I wanted to bring, as having a Latinate chapter kind of services for trans family support services, something that it would be intersecting with everything, because we're not only madres, we're abuelas, madres, tias. We come with a lot of wonderful baggage.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Adamalis? Any thoughts?
I feel very proud of my daughter. She was true to herself from a very, very young age. Like I told you once, since she was 3, she's been vocalizing it. So hearing her advocate for herself now, and say yes to any interview, and speak up for her LGBT community, it's very powerful. I was brought up kind of, staying kind of like in the down low, don't mess with politics. I didn't know anything about politics. I didn't know anything about things like that. And I had to learn now because of my daughter, and seeing her being knowledgeable of all that, and seeing her have the guts at 12 years old to go and testify and go and speak up for herself and do press conferences and all of that. It's very powerful, and I'm so thankful that she is so brave, and I'm learning with her as well. But it makes me very proud to see her is not only advocate in English but also in Spanish. It's very, very, very powerful.
Yes, claro. And it makes us proud to see both Adeline and Elio and a lot of other Latinx LGBTQ plus young advocates push for equality amongst our communities. Both of you touched on something that I think is really important, the extension of family and the importance of not only finding support and inclusivity within your immediate family, right? Your parents, your siblings, but also among your grandmothers and your grandparents and your tias, your abuelos, your cousins, your primos. I mean, sometimes the dog is even important in Latinx families, right? I mean, we're so united and have such a unique bond as Latinos and Latinx folks that the work is it carries on to that, finding support, finding love, and finding inclusivity within your extended family is also important. And part of that also, what's important is religion. So I want to talk a little bit about religion and its impact on Latinx LGBTQ plus families. But before we get into that conversation, I want to watch a video that touches on the experience of Latinx LGBTQ families entailing religion. It's called "Before God, We Are All Family." So let's go ahead and watch now.
We live in a culture where faith and family share one symbolic relationship. But how do you stay truthful to the person you were born to be when you're told that who you are is wrong?
Yo le preguntaba a Dios por qué siento esta atracción, porque la iglesia, tus familiares te enseñan que, o sea, no es normal, es pecado, te vas a ir al infierno. O sea, yo sentía esa lucha interna en mí.
My brothers looked at females because they want to be with a female. I looked at females more like, oh, I wish I was her.
How do you come out and still maintain a close relationship with your family, with your faith family?
In high school, my youngest daughter came out to me and told me she's lesbian. And shortly after that, a few months after that, my other daughter came out that she is lesbian.
I had my first experience with a woman in the United States, and I was very confused and started questioning myself.
I had people that wanted to follow me on Twitter or that wanted to, friend me on Facebook. And I would really sit and think about it, because then if they were friends with me on Facebook, they would see a side of my life that not a lot of people see. And if they see that, what backlash are my parents going to suffer?
Y cuando yo empecé a notar que él era afeminado, pues traté de buscar deportes y otra forma de hacerlo cambiar.
Who are we to question who God created us to be? Who are we to question our capacity for love?
A lot of hard-hitting and relatable messages and stories in that video, right? Having to deal with our families and how religion plays a part in that. Lara, let's start with you. What does this video make you feel and think about?
It is very, very important for my family. I always say to people that I'm a recovering Catholic. Like I said, I come from a very small community. And the way that I was brought up, it was a very constricted and restricted religion. I do believe in God. And this is going to make my son laugh because, packing to college, I put the crucifix that my grandmother gave me when I came to the United States by myself. And then the grandfather gave him the rosary that he got in Mexico City in La Basilica de Guadalupe. So, he was having protection coming from all over the family, even though for him, it doesn't really mean anything. But he knows that because it has so many deep meaning to us, he's very respectful of that. He knows that when we go see La Abuela, Welly, Las bendiciones de la abuela. There's no major protection than that. If your abuela would give you a blessing, hey, world, here I come. I'm ready. So having all this and having the experience of my son being transgender, and especially with the families that I started supporting through trans family support services, it was always a point of conversation. Mi tía es cristiana, no quiere a mi hijo, mi abuela no, ya no le habla a mi hija. There was always something in there. So there was something that I was not able to understand very deeply, and I was not able to guide the families through it. So in my continuing quest to look for resources, I was lucky enough to find this video and to find all the resources the HRC has in Spanish. And the different research that they have done covering different religions, Mormons, Christians, Catholic. I have not been able to find any other information anywhere other than NRC. So this project was very important to me because it is important to my community. It may not be very important for my son, but he took the crucifix and he took the rosary, and grandma gave him all the blessings that she could have so he would be safe in San Francisco.
Yeah, I will say that I mean it. We as Latinos and I myself am Mexican and come from a Mexican household. Sorry about that. Sometimes what is meaningful is like the symbolism and the tradition behind religion and the importance that it has on some of our family members, and so I take away from those meanings as opposed to like religion collectively. Elio, what about you? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I wouldn't consider myself like a super religious person, but my extended family definitely does believe in God, specifically my grandparents. And so when I was, coming to terms with my gender identity, I was actually very nervous to tell them, because religion is one of those things that are very personal from person to person, from religion to religion. So one person can read one line of scripture and think, great, God wants me to love everyone. And the other person could read the exact same scripture and think, great, I'm going to love everyone except gay people because that's what God says. Because it's a very personal thing and there's lots of interpretations and lots of ways to follow. And so, we love to think that love will support people that love us will always support us, but sometimes, unfortunately, that's not true. So I was very nervous to tell my grandparents because of that religion aspect. And I was very lucky that, love did come out and love did end up like winning in terms of that sort of struggle with what is more important. But that's not the case for a lot of people. So I was very lucky, but I was very nervous because of that religious aspect.
I'm sure it's a
Elio,
case
sorry.
for. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just going to be a mother. I was going to say, Elio, you were not lucky, my love. You were blessed.
Yeah. I'm sure it's similar experiences and cases with a lot of other communities, right? But because religion is so prevalent and so strong within the Latinx community, that us who identify as LGBTQ, it presents some sort of challenges at times, and it does at some point make us think of like, how are we going to disclose all this information with for a community? Because you had mentioned that it's pretty personal, but even though religion is very communal, right? So it's everywhere within our community. So it does present a challenge, but I agree with you in that once we get over that hurdle, we find love through religion. um, Adeline, you as a young person, this conversation might be a little bit not your thing to talk about, right? But like, what are your thoughts there? How do you feel about religion and whether that helps you or does it present different challenges to you as a young trans kid?
It definitely presents challenges because growing up, I was always very religious and I was always with my grandmother, so she was very religious. And then when I kind of came to knowing myself and being my true self, I kind of distanced myself from religion because like the way that they would talk about people from the LGBTQ community, it made me realize that if I were to come out I would get hated on, or I could get bullied from like people preaching the word of God, or so it made me distance myself from religion, and I still believe in God and stuff, but I just practice like on my own now because I am too scared to like go to church.
Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of LGBTQ plus Latinx folks experience. Personally, I have a very similar story and had to kind of distance myself significantly from the church and um, its importance in my upbringing. So yeah, you're not alone in that experience. But what about what it helps folks with? Because I know that through religion and through her belief in God, my mom was really able to um, become supportive and accepting and inclusive of my identity very quickly, because it was like, well, God teaches us to love, and because of this principle, we're not going to create different challenges for you. It is what it is, and we're going to love you no matter what. Do folks feel like that is also the case within your families? Does religion help you um, find love and acceptance a bit quicker? It facilitates that experience because of our religious upbringings.
I
don't
feel
think.
I kind of want to shadow Elio's point of view there, because since it can be taken very different ways. You know, I think it depends on how the family or the person wants to take the word of God or the religion and say, hey, God is love, and we're going to love you no matter what, which is kind of what our family did. But not everybody has that, you know, experience. So we were, like I said, the one of the blessed ones that we had family that took it that way. But like Elio said, it's all on how they want to perceive it and how they want to see it. So I think that has a lot to do with how your family and or your community is going to take it. Um, that's a very strong point Elio made.
Lara, did you have anything to add to that?
In my family, it was, because we're all recovery Catholics. I think that we chose to use the word of God to be respectful of my son's true identity. I think also that helped a lot. Faith helped a lot, especially my mother when she was going through all the process of grieving, of accepting, of, of we all have our own way to accept my son's true reality. And I think that for my mother especially, it was very, very helpful to be able to have her faith, because at the end she always says, God does not make mistakes, and my child is smart, he is great. Just, like Adeline, we have beautiful, beautiful, beautiful children. They're changing the world, that they're true to themselves, and they have more courage than the little pinky that I will ever have in my whole life. So we just follow the lead, and we pray for their safety. And we are just so lucky and so blessed that we're in California, when we have so many laws in schools, when we have so many laws in businesses, and the state government really makes a point of having equality rights for everyone.
You touched on something that's very important, not only during Latinx Heritage Month, particularly for Latinx LGBTQ plus folks, but all year round, is equal protections, legal protections for LGBTQ plus people, not only Latinx LGBTQ plus people, but everyone. And that's to include marginalized communities and communities of color. And that leads us to the conversation of the Equality Act. The passing of the Equality Act would guarantee legal protections, not just for people like us, but other individuals that are part of our community, not only LGBTQ plus community, but people of color, BIPOC people, transgender folks, women, right? And so I want to end the conversation on the importance of addressing and advocating for the Equality Act during Latinx Heritage Month, particularly through a queer Latinx lens, but beyond that, right? And so, Elio, you had talked about voting in a very significant presidential election. And so, on the topic of the Equality Act, what are your thoughts there? And as an advocate, what do you see happening with the Equality Act, and how would it provide protections for LGBTQ plus Latinx folks?
Absolutely. So, like mentioned before, I do live in California and I'm going to university in San Francisco. And I was able to vote, in the 2020 election. And then recently, last month, in the govern recall. Sorry, I forgot how to say that word. But essentially, with the Equality Act, we would get a lot of the same protections, in Texas that we are seeing in other states like California. For example, my school, we have gender neutral restrooms in every building on campus. So, even if a transgender person were to exist outside of the gender binary of, trans woman or trans man, would still have a place to be able to feel comfortable and use the restroom. Um, Furthermore, I was born in Texas, Laredo, Texas, and while it was super easy here in California because of those protections to be able to change, my legal name and my gender marker on my ID, because my birth certificate is from Texas, that's going to be a lot more difficult to change. And without the Equality Act, I'll probably never have a birth certificate that correctly, reflects who I am and my gender identity. The most important thing here is that, Texas is a beautiful state. There are beautiful people in Texas. And so with the Equality Act, we'll really be able to help support and protect these people.
Adeline, in your video, you mentioned the importance of the Equality Act because of things that you've experienced at school. And also you include your experiences with having asthma and whether that would a conflict if you were to, God forbid, right, end up in need of medical care. So, as a very young LGBTQ plus Latinx individual, how do you see yourself continuing to advocate for the passing of the Equality Act?
I don't get that question.
Yeah, like as you continue to grow and share your story, do you want to continue advocating for the passing of the Equality Act?
Oh yes, 100%. Because not only would I benefit from it, but everybody in the United States would benefit from it.
In Texas.
In Texas.
I mean, it would create a blank
Oh.
for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Well, not everyone, but folks that are in street, because right now you could drive from Texas to another state and your rights would change drastically. And so, yeah, you're right. It would provide protections for people within our community. Adamalis and Laura, do you have anything to add on to that?
I would like to add that another advantage also of that protection, not only for transgender, for gender diverse, but like saying BIPOC. This year has been very difficult. We have seen the best of humanity. We have seen the worst of humanity. So by having laws is actually very important because they're not only protecting the people that is affected by those laws, but it also allows the education of other people. Because we have the laws that we have in California, Trans Family Support Services actually goes to schools and educates teachers and staff. They go to hospitals. We work with different medical services because we also want them to be able to support, respect, and affirm gender diverse people. We go to businesses, if somebody is not only because there may be somebody that is gender diverse at their business, but it's just because some business in California, they're very open to educating themselves because when we know better, we do better. So having laws that are actually changing is not only changing to protection, but it also changing with education. And with education, they're nothing but progress, always.
Indeed, indeed. Great, folks. Well, I just want to thank you guys, each of you, for joining me and contributing to such an amazing and meaningful conversation, and to helping me address and spotlight the issues that LGBTQ plus Latinx folks like ourselves face. There are challenges ahead of us, but as long as we stick together and advocate for what we know is right, I think that we have a bright future ahead of us. Thank you also for helping me celebrate and observe Latinx Heritage Month. A very happy Latinx Heritage Month to each of you. And again, just thank you so much for your time. It's been fun. It's been great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
folks.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.